Hello, everyone. Welcome to the first episode of the EWTA podcast. I'm super excited to be sharing the first guest with everyone. It's just turned out to be one of the most kind-hearted people I know, and just really great mind. I'm excited for everyone to hear the message that he has to share and the future that we're trying to create for ourselves with lots of good intention. I would suggest probably bringing a pen and paper because there are a number of terms people may not know. So I'd say sit back and enjoy the ride because it's quite the journey that we're about to take ourselves on. Here we go. Let's just jump into what are some of those top things that you're working on, and what's kind of your vision?
Oh man, you're asking me to be my A game right from the start here. I'm currently pounding some strawberry ice cream to try to pump some sugar in my body to be able to answer questions like that. I don't know. What I'm working on is, I suppose the biggest thing is I'm trying to figure out, I think all of us in the communities that we kind of circle around realize there's a problem. Mm-hmm. And I realize there's a problem. And with my limited skill set, that of kind of building digital systems that people can kind of inhabit and teaching game development, teaching coding, teaching art, having kids, all those things, I feel like my best way to kind of tackle those larger problems is through education. Mm-hmm. Using artificial intelligence. So that's my project, and it's called Super Reality.
And I've heard you say spatial
computing.
Yeah. So what does that entail?
Spatial computing, for those that don't know, mm-hmm. is basically augmented reality glasses. Like you can wear glasses, they're see-through, so not like virtual reality. And the glasses can overlay holograms into reality. So like HoloLens, magically, things like that. And my platform is definitely going to take advantage of those things, but we're not implementing that day one because user adoption isn't there yet. We're first kind of tackling a couple of lower dimensions. So 2D and 3D and VR, we're going to tackle those first. And then once those Apple glasses and those other things come on, we'll then support that.
Wow, that's amazing, man. What do you kind of envision as your initial scale for the project?
So the scale isn't up to me. I'm more of making a framework, that allows other people to contribute. It's up to the community, really. But I hope that it will become very big. The core of the idea has taken on many shapes in terms of like trying to get to this solution. The latest incarnation, which I kind of feel like I've gone as far as I can go, and it seems to be like we're finally on the right path, is this concept of digital twins. I don't know if you know what a digital twin is.
Oh, is that like you have an avatar and it does certain things for you, or?
So yes, but that avatar is doing things for you, but it is actually kind of represents you in the fullest sense, at least for what we're doing. So what we're doing is really trying to enable schools to, who has like teachers and students to have digital twins of themselves. And these digital twins are basically, just think of it as a chatbot. So, if I ask you, Gavin, hey, Gavin, what's your favorite color? What would you say?
Green.
Green. So it's green. Perfect. So the thing is, when you would say that or write that on Super Reality, just by answering that question, you would have programmed your digital twin. So everything that you're doing is, and when you're answering questions in a class, you're doing those things, you are programming your digital twin. So when it comes to somebody that you meet, if you're not available, like a new person, a new teacher or whoever, and you're not available, when they ask Gavin a question, your digital twin can answer for you. So this would allow like me to be like, man, I wonder what Gavin's, favorite color is. Oh, there you go. He just told me. His digital twin told me it's green. So it's kind of a quicker way to communicate is the theory. There's a couple of different ramifications of that. So for one, if a student has a question for a teacher, right? Like, hey, I really don't understand problem 6 on page 3. And this is why I don't understand it. If that teacher has already answered that question, and usually if a teacher has already taught a class before, they will have usually answered those questions before. But when that student asks that teacher that question, it'll first get routed to that teacher's digital twin. And if there is an answer that is kind of satisfactory, then the student will instantly be answered. So the student will have no lag time between asking the question to getting an answer. It'll be near instantaneous. Bam, there's the answer. I don't need to wait for 30 minutes or an hour or the next day to get help. I've instantly got that thing. And so the student is getting that teacher's best answer almost instantly. Now, what that does for the teacher is the teacher didn't have to answer that same question. The teacher was able to be free doing whatever else they did. Maybe there's a student that really needs their help, that needs some one-on-one attention, that's really struggling, and that teacher is now freed up to give that student their entire attention and doesn't need to context switch to switch over. So those are two of the big benefits to a system like this. Does that make sense?
Yes, I'm following you perfectly. It's genius.
Thank you.
Yeah, it sounds like we're just automating some of our best attributes, and making it so we don't have to recreate the wheel, essentially, right?
That would essentially be it. I taught for many years, and I remember when YouTube came out, right?
Yeah.
I just was so blown away by it and just realized that video teaching was way better than what I was doing. So I took all my lectures and dumped them to videos, and on the first day, I would just give a full semester to my students and be like, here you go. And, within a week, they got like 12 weeks worth of material, and then we could more focus on really taking what they know and getting them better. So, it's an amazing way to not only reinventing the wheel, it's turbocharging the wheel.
Right. One of the thoughts that came to mind was like some students are more receptive to certain types of communication, and they may flourish with a different kind of teaching style.
So that is actually something that I haven't talked much about, but I've kind of done some notes in my head about, and it's kind of on the roadmap. So GPT-3, I don't know if you know much about GPT-3.
I've been doing some research.
Great. Also, look at GPT-Neo. GPT-3 costs money. GPT-Neo does not. And it looks like it's going to get as much training as GPT-3 eventually. One of the cool things in GPT-3's playground is these natural language processing AIs are able to take a string of words, and you can say, hey, could you explain this paragraph to me, even this set of paragraphs, as if I was a second grader? So it can take a very, thick couple paragraphs, understand semantically what it's saying, and then break it down into a way that student can understand it. And I plan on doing this automatically in a lot of cases because we're building neural networks of the students and the teachers, right? Their own personal neural networks. We'll know what they respond to. So I would hope that we can leverage that data to kind of, if they're getting information that is a keyword they might not know, it could maybe, recognize that and translate. Even if we speak English, we still speak different forms of it.
Yeah, it's even interesting the aspect of my definition of truth. Some of these very broad words.
Oh, yeah. I've seen some of those spirals on Clubhouse where, it's a funny one to hear people's definitions.
Yeah. I love watching people kick the can down in the philosophy rooms.
I can only take those rooms for so long. I won't name my friend's name, but I appreciate those rooms. He dismisses them all the way. He's like, oh, they're just talkers, damn it. He just wants to build stuff. I think there is a lot of room for a philosophy, but I do believe that like we had said before you start taping, is this really is the time for action and theory and philosophy while the world is burning. This is not the time for it anymore. Really getting your hands dirty and trying to affect some change seems more like the time.
Amen. I couldn't have put it better myself.
I think a lot of people are feeling that, and that gives me hope,
Yeah, I think it's about creating. So the reason why I want to make the movement is because there are so many people who are feeling this way. They're like, but where do I go to join? I want a little place where I can feel like I'm at home. And I know that there's other people who are doing, have this same mentality as me. Classically, it seemed to me that religious groups have been filling this role of a sense of belonging and community, etc. And I think that a humanitarian looking one would be, we need to take care of ourselves so that we're capable of being the change, being that and embodying it and taking the action, etc.
I would agree with all that. Yeah, I think, over the course of history, there was a lot of praying and wishing that change would happen. And I do believe that stuff actually has a lot of merit because, it just takes starting to verbalize stuff even mentally for the change to kind of happen. I do agree, but just wishing for stuff to magically happen, everybody in history that really did change, they just, maybe somebody wished and we don't know, but it looks... But yeah, I think we see how so much power we have with technology and so much power we have in terms of ignorance and what we've done to the world. And just, with our sheer force of will, destroying whole habitats or species of animals or entire countries and ways of life. And yeah, that's always been force of will. So I do hope that something bubbles up and that realizes that history and realizes the power we have and kind of aims that cannon full of rainbows and hearts and smiley faces and intelligence towards the world.
Yeah. It's interesting because with all the things that we really aspire to do that are good and great, that we have all these good intentions, behind it is actually this thing that's quite heavy of, if we don't make it, there's this corner that we have to turn where there's just this unending, really beautiful future. And there's just this bottleneck of, are we going to make it?
I guess there are. It's interesting. But I think that's always been around. And I think there's been a lot of, oh no, the apocalypse is coming.
Yeah.
I think it's very, very easy to imagine apocalyptic times. I mean, I think I don't want to say every religion. I don't want to stereotype, but a lot of religions, they do kind of imagine those things. And I would hope that our imaginations are becoming so broad and our technical skills are becoming so broad that let's put it this way, we need to start imagining better futures. We need to will ourselves to be optimistic. We need to find those people and rally them together. Because, it just seems like with the news and after 2020 and COVID and all the climate change stuff and everything that we're kind of going through as a species, it's, I wouldn't say it's now or never, but I would say we've got more tools than we've ever had and more wealth of intelligence than we've ever had and more time on our hands than we've ever had to fix these things.
Yeah. I mean, without a doubt. The other thing that I do on Clubhouse, and this is where I get this kind of a little bit of doom and gloom, is that I go into rooms that are quite opposite from what my belief systems are, basically. And I talk with people, I do my best to just hear them and understand them. And there's some significant portion of people who, don't recognize that if we continue to put energy into building up our military so that we can defeat whatever X country, and they have to build up their military more and make sure that we can do cyber strikes or drone, just like they don't understand the implications of an arms race, essentially. And so part of this process is reaching out to the people like that and trying to, hey,
yeah,
it's okay.
I think that's why I've kind of gone into education, because I let's put it this way. I value everybody. I really do. I think everybody has a center of goodness at the end of the day. We all love somebody. We're all, human. We all have these problems. We're all kind of trapped in these systems. And at the end of the day, we only know what we know. And so those people that you're speaking of, and man, that's a broad swath of people. I always come back to education. I just think people need to learn more and to have the chance for teachable moments and to use those moments to just bootstrap them with the best education on the planet and turn everybody in these lifelong learners. And I see AI is doing that. I mean, this thing that I'm working on with Super Reality, it really is about making a digital twin of the student, of the teacher. And once you start doing that, though, you get to do some very interesting things, right? So one of the interesting things you do is a parent has access to that, right? So if my student is struggling to learn to read, I could ask my kid's teacher, hey, what's some techniques to help my student read? And their digital twin could send back the standard definition. But the power of the system comes in where you can not only ping my teacher or my son's teacher, but I can ping all the digital twins in that school system. I can ping 100 teachers at once and get all of their answers instantaneously. And kind of going through them and digging through the comments and digging through what's working and really crowdsource intelligence. It starts to become a collective intelligence. And I really hope that type of ability to ask questions and get answers is a start down the path of really letting people change it, making them smarter, I suppose.
100%. Yeah. I guess I neglected to ask you, what's the time frame for it?
We're actively looking to have this thing out in September. We're really trying hard to meet that date. All the technology is proven, but we're doing some really tough stuff. I mean, just what I told you there is part of it, but you won't only be able to do chat, you can also toggle into a 3-dimensional worldview or VR. So it's a lot of plates spinning, and to get them all to land neatly in a stack is kind of hard. But the good news is our team is really intelligent. We've got 20 plus developers, I think, and some leaders in the field. And the tech's kind of proven. It just is like, all right, let's stitch it together now and see what happens.
And I've heard you talk a number of times about, your deep belief in open source. All of this is going to be open source.
So the project, for one, if you're dealing with schools and kids and teens, right? If I would say, here's these amazing tools that are going to bootstrap your learning, give me $10 a month per seat, I'd feel like a huge dickhead, for one. I really would. I'd be like, man, that's a dick move. So, I think open source at its core is part of it, because that will allow a lot of great people to come on and help out the project and make it better. And, I'm hoping to empower a lot of parents who feel this way. And they're like, yeah, I want that too. I want to make change in the world. Wow, this is a platform that I can jump in and help out. Right. And so if I'm charging for it, it's like, well, how do I pay those people? It's like, well, we shouldn't charge for it. This should be a fundamental right as a human. So open source, transparent with everything. We're like an open collective. We are also going straight up decentralized in terms of we're going to be serverless. So we don't have to pay for server costs. Everything will be hosted on people's computers, and they'll just kind of connect together using IPFS. That's this thing called intergalactic file sharing protocol, which is like peer-to-peer, old school Napster type technology. But so I'm pretty hardcore about open source, transparency, open collective, decentralization, all those things to try to make these tools for free for people.
So you have some funding and everything, et cetera. And
I'm personally funding it right now. But the idea is to, once we launch, to get some donations. Like I'm trying a pretty good Kickstarter video. I don't know if you know Kurgsot. You know those guys, the Kurgsot team. They do those amazing animations. They're like, why the universe will die of, entropic death and stuff like that. And it's all coolly animated. You know those?
I haven't seen it. It's on YouTube or?
Yeah, it's on YouTube. You would know it if you've seen it. They've been around for years and they're like the best. It's like those really colorful, beautiful animations that, just they can take these wildly complicated topics and just condense it and make it so simple for anybody to understand. Yeah, Kurgsot. They're German, and I always mispronounce their name. But yeah, the idea is to kind of push out that Kickstarter and to start to try to find donations and grants. And we plan on having a store within our system to also generate revenue. But I call it the first non-fucked app store in the sense to where we're going to give 100% of the profits back to the actual students and teachers and whoever else is on the thing. Like, because it's serverless and it's all open source, we don't have to take any profits from people. We just pass the profits directly back. Now, if they want to give a percentage back as a donation, great, but they can keep 100% of it all.
Wow. Nick, wow, it's just so revolutionary. It's so cool.
I've been thinking about this thing for going on 10 years now. So a long, long time. So it's been a journey to get to this and kind of get all the pieces in the right place. And it's been a long time. So it sounds like I've got my shit together, but man, it's taken a long time to kind of get to all this stuff, So thanks, man.
Yeah. I'm expecting to see a Nobel Peace Prize with your name.
I was telling somebody, because I really did nothing really, money doesn't interest me anymore and stuff like that. And all those things. But yeah, that would be a cool, if life is a simulation and, it's a game simulation, that'd be a cool thing to win. That would be the cool one.
What do you think about that? Do you think we're in a simulation?
Oh, well, let's put it this way. I have no clue. But it's definitely something that my friend, who's much smarter than me, sent me a paper the other day with a bunch of Kryptonian math on it, saying, yeah, this proves we're in a simulation. And it was this white paper that just came out. And I'm like, cool, but I have to take his word for it because I can't read Kryptonian math. So, I hear it is, from very smart people. And I will say this, for me personally, I've probably made, 10,000 plus. It might be 20 or 30 or 40,000 plus video games, and maybe even 100,000 plus video games that I've just kind of been responsible for tangentially. Because I ran schools. So I run schools, actually, where we teach kids, teens, adults, and adults on the spectrum how to code and design video games. So, if you take, every day we've got 30 or 40 students, and each day they're making a little prototype, and it's a lot of games, right? And so I've been part of problem solving with so many students and so many video games and creating so many kind of simulations inside the computer that I was a very early adopter of simulation hypothesis, and I found it a very effective mimetic wrapper to kind of put on reality. It's really easy for me to put it because I've developed so many games. I worked at Activision for many years. I've taught college. I ran a game art and design and game programming college before for about 10 years. So yeah, it's really easy for me to put it and that wrapper. And when you put it on your life, and it's easy for gamers too, it definitely gives you a power over life. And one of the ways that I kind of explain it to people is in an open world game, right? You never have a fear of walking up to a character in a game and just pressing the A button on them and talking to them, right? You never have that fear. You're always like, oh, let me walk up to this guy and see what he does. Hit the A button. And it's just such a wonderful way to think about life of like, I'm going to walk up to this person and be like, hey, man, how's it going? Because you never know what they're going to say. And it might be something that aids you on your quest, So it's a beautiful way to think about life. even if it isn't true. It kind of makes life fun and adventure. And then if you want hardcore proof why it works, Elon Musk is, now the richest person in the world, and he's a hardcore simulation hypothesis guy. So it seems to work.
Yeah, I come at it from a different angle and completely agree. I think maybe about 5 or 7 years ago, convinced myself that we don't have free will. And it's a very similar sensation as what you're describing, this kind of liberation of what's the worst that could happen, Why not?
So explain that to me, though. Explain that with the free will thing, because I'm interested in that, because I, again, like we talked about with truth, other people have definitions of that. What's your definition of that?
Are you familiar with the theory? It's called Laplace's demon. Have you ever heard of that?
No, I'm not as smart as you. Please explain to me.
It's basically that if you have enough information about a system, then you can accurately predict the past of it and the future of it. And I don't think that there's anything mystical that happens inside of our bodies, nothing magical, so to speak. So if we had enough information, if we could track every single blood vessel, every single synapse, everything, right? It'd just be that we can predict what has happened and what will happen.
Yeah, that is definitely, comes back to simulation hypothesis and using simulations to predict future and all sorts of stuff like that. Did you catch that TV show Devs? Did you see Devs?
No. What's it about?
Oh, dude. Okay, I cannot spoil it for you. But I'm telling you, like, if you're not a TV guy, no worries. You're going to have to be a TV guy for Devs. Just make yourself go through like the 8-episode arc and then give me a buzz and you'll be like, thank you.
I'm so excited.
It's made for people like us.
Awesome. No, that's super exciting. Is it DEVS?
Yeah, DEVS, Devs.
Cool. I'm going to check that out.
Yeah, I can speak a little bit about that, the simulation of knowing these systems. I don't even know if I should get in this, but I will. This will be kind of fun to go down. So in super reality, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have got a school that students are part of, right? And you'll have a school they join, and the teachers are part of the school, the students are part of the school, and you can kind of collectively ping this school and ask it questions, correct? Like that's how it's going to be. Just think of it like a Discord group, actually. We're really our architecture and UI is very similar to Discord. So, the school's kind of on a Discord. Each channel is kind of like a classroom. And you can kind of ping the school and be like, hey, what's the best way to teach my, student to read, right? But like in Discord, right, you've got all sorts of different servers. And so one of the goals for launch is we're going to pre-populate servers with almost like Wikipedia, where let's just take one instance, like a sunflower, right? So you'll have a Discord-like server that represents a sunflower. Mm-hmm. And it will be a public server that anybody can kind of join. And what you do in that server is the server represents a neural network of a sunflower. And so people that are botanists, people, horticulturists, flowerists, people that really care about sunflowers can come in and start to define the voice of a sunflower. And they can start to precede it with a bunch of questions like, what would somebody ask a sunflower? Like, how should I take care of you? And the sunflower would say something like, I need to be watered, once a week. That's good. Where should I place you in, my yard, or where that? It's like, you should direct sun. I do find direct sun. Mm. And so the idea is to build up this neural network that represents everything about the consciousness of a sunflower, and have all these experts in the field of, plants and whatever, to seed that sunflower with intelligence. Mm-hmm. And so what you what you do with that then is you then plug that back into the school system. So when a student is learning about photosynthesis and learning about these things, they can actually walk up to a sunflower and talk to it.
Oh my God. And this is when we're in the AR.
Correct. We'll also be able to do it in 3D and chat, but it gets very, very awesomely powerful when you've got a headset on that has a camera with object detection, and it can recognize the sunflower's, silhouette and understand, okay, this is a sunflower. Let me pull up the sunflower's neural network and then place some spatial audio, like right where the sunflower is at. So when you hear it talking, it sounds like it's coming directly from the sunflower. And then you use natural language, processing and say like, hey, sunflower, how's it going? And it should say to the kid, fine. And then you can have a conversation.
Oh my gosh. It makes me think about like hyperlinking kind of stuff where I am similar to these entities as well. And like, if you want to have more robust knowledge about me, then you can like understand some of the similarities that my attributes have.
Oh, totally. I mean, totally. I mean, a lot of that would be, up to the programmers of that sunflower on what they want to kind of show people and how they want to teach them. But yeah, you can pull up documents, you can pull up other 3D models of what a seed looks like and videos of how to cook sunflower seeds or, all sorts of different things. It's really up to that group who's kind of managing that collective consciousness of that organism.
So when you say that group, how many people would do that? And
so my plan is to just open it up because I think managing stuff like that is kind of a dick move, and you need that community to kind of moderate it. It's kind of like a Reddit subreddit, right? You need that community to kind of deal with it. If I have to try to manage that, I'll screw it up. So you need people that really care about that sunflower to kind of collectively be like, okay, this is our kind of thing. We're going to stake our claim in here and give them tools to where they can voice grievances and vote and polling and governance and all that within this entity of a sunflower. But you got to let everybody get in there, right? You can't close it off to people. That's in part why we're open source and free, because the goal is to kind of, I don't know if you've heard of the term mirror world. It's where usually the term mirror world basically means, if you Google and Wikipedia, I feel their definition is lacking. It talks about just, a building representation and a landmark representation of the world, right? In like virtual reality or AR or something like that.
Wait, it's like an NFT, no?
I think that's a whole separate discussion. But no, a mirror world is like, just think of it like you're going to so I worked at Activision, right, on True Crime LA and True Crime New York. They were the first mirror world games where we actually used GPS data of all of Los Angeles and created a street by street virtual representation of Los Angeles.
Gotcha.
And usually people associate a mirror world with that type of stuff, but I associate it with every plant, animal, creature, concept thing in all of reality. And so, we have to make super reality open, because if it's that big of an idea, you kind of can't, you can't come in here, buddy. It's like, no, reality's for everybody. So you got to make it free and open source,
And so I was curious about when you said the kind of the Napster version, what is why not blockchain? What's the difference there?
So blockchain is more of a ledger. It's like, I edited this, or I put this piece of text in here, and this is a immutable record that says I did this. IPFS is different. IPFS, just think of that as where everything lives at, just a hard drive. So, usually like, when we're on some website, it goes to Amazon, right? Those servers, and you download it from that server. IPFS allows each computer that's using the software to be the servers themselves. So we're doing that just for, everybody says decentralization, I just like it just for, don't have to charge people, because, a system like this could get really expensive really quickly and we would have to charge money. But if we decentralize and do something like IPFS, we can give it to everybody for free, and just people using the network will host it themselves.
Is there a drawback to that?
I'm sure we'll find it. Let's put it this way. It is honestly one of the last technology hurdles we have to solve. Like, we've kind of solved chat, we've solved 3D, we've solved the chatbots, we've solved so much of the issues, but that is one technology that we're putting off. And everybody on the team is like, oh yeah, we can do this, but we haven't done it yet. But let's put it this way. I've developed so many things for so long that I know we're going to have troubles, but my goal is to get to what I just said, is where we can not charge people money and it's all hosted locally.
Yeah, get it at least running. It could be like putting out a scientific paper, as long as people can critique it and then modify it, etc.
It has to be dynamic. The world is so dynamic that you need the network and these neural networks to be able to evolve and kind of take in that new knowledge and adapt. Yeah, most definitely. And
so one other thing was, is everyone going to have to learn how to code? Are we basically entering that world?
So that is definitely one of the things we've been talking about a lot. And again, I don't, GPT-3 is kind of one of these game changers. I mean, just last week, if you know game development, there's a popular game engine called Unity. And we just saw a demo that somebody was using, natural language to write Unity scripts in C#. You just basically say, I'd like to have a cube that rotates and is red. And it takes all that and it just translates those natural language words into just scripts and creates that cube rotating. I don't want to go through this whole thing and make it just sound like super reality. There's a lot of amazing teams that we're kind of part of that are a group, and XR Engine, those guys are just visionaries, right? And one of their lead programmer, him and I talk quite extensively, and we both feel that coding is going to change. It's been this thing that you had to be that type of a brain person to do it. But we keep seeing that the tools are getting easier and easier. Kids are now, I've been teaching kids, coding for a very long time, with Scratch and all those things. And I know that there will be a need for coders. Most definitely. There'll be a need for coders who understand those, lower level languages, but there should be either the highest or the lowest level, whichever one you want to pick, of where anybody, a 6-year-old, should be able to just speak a virtual reality dimension into existence. They should just be able to utter, I'd like to be in a meadow with big trees and unicorns everywhere. And I should be able to ride those unicorns, and for it just to kind of build itself and happen. I think that's within, our reach within the next 10 years. It's cool, right? Like, we all want that reality. It's definitely coming.
Oh, it's so neat, man. It's my jaw is on the ground. It's so neat.
Go look at all the GPT-3 demos, and you can just see GPT-3 coding demos, and you'll just see it starting to happen. Like, you see it, people just uttering web pages. Like, I'd like a web page with, a grid of 9x9 tables with, this and this and this, and it just codes all the HTML and CSS for you. It's pretty amazing how it, just like that other thing we talked about, like tell me like explain it to me like I'm a second grader. It's just take this and transfer this to JavaScript or 3.js or, C#.
It seems like the coder is creating the product of making the reality accessible.
Most definitely. And I think we're all going to have the ability to become programmers. You can look at Steam. So Steam's a great example of an exponential curve. I mean, I remember when Steam started and, oh, cool, there's 100 games on Steam. And then the next year there was 200. And then the next year, 400. And then the next year, 800. And then the next year, and you can just see this curve of the tools becoming democratized, easier to use. I've taught thousands of kids to create their own 3D worlds, right? And it's because the tools have gotten so simple and the engine's so simple. And we're just going to keep going in that direction because creating 3D worlds is an amazing thing. And creating your own tools is an amazing thing. Having them customized to you is an amazing thing. And I think showing everybody that they have that power and that they too can become creators is definitely a good direction for all of reality to go in.
What do you think about this? It seems to really put the power in people's hands, right? Then what?
So there's dangers. I will say this, there's dangers about it. And, those are things that I think about. There's this thing of if you can speak your own realities into existence and they, with everything we've seen, the way technology is going, they will maybe become indistinguishable from this reality. It makes reality get very, very odd. So, yeah, I think it's weird stuff to talk about, but it's actually stuff on our trajectory as a human species, I feel. And one of the ways around that, I think, is to have a base layer of reality that we all kind of agree on that this is base reality, so we can still kind of come back and retain our humanity and everything, because it's going to get very abstract when you can speak these worlds into existence and they can be anything you want them to be and behave in any way that you want them to behave and teach you anything you want to understand. I can see people getting lost in those realities. I don't necessarily know that that's a good thing. I don't know. I'm sure generations from now people will debate it and talk about it still, but it's like, I fundamentally feel that we need to retain our roots as humans just so we can kind of keep ourselves centered as to where our direction should go as a species. So that's very woo-woo talk and far ahead. But, I was just in a room the other night and you need to at least think about that stuff. I feel, somebody was talking about how some countries have plans, a lot of countries don't. And if you want to have a 150-year plan for a species or a civilization, you have to start thinking in those ways and start making sure that you're not painting yourselves into corners with it all. The stuff that I'm saying, we're almost there, right? And it's one of those things that it's, even with me, I know so much about this stuff, but I feel it's moving so quick that every day I'm like, holy shit, that happened today. I don't know if you saw the other day with programmable skin cells. Have you seen that one?
No, but I'm not even surprised.
Yeah, I'll send you that link after the thing. It's like stuff like that I see. It's like, oh, I don't even know how to even tackle that with my brain.
There's so many directions that it brings my mind to, like, there are like black box things that we don't want to know. In fact, like how to create a super virus or something. And it's like, how do we limit that sort of knowledge and stuff?
Yeah. There's the dangers. There's those dangers, especially if you set people free for education. I think it really comes down to transparency. I think there needs to be transparency. I think there needs to be a lot of group supervision of each other. And I have a lot of faith in humanity that people won't go down those paths. I think fundamentally, if we give people what they need and nurture them, people are good at the end of the day. I really wholeheartedly believe that. And I do think people screw up. Mm-hmm. And so I think there needs to be a level of, if somebody's doing some dangerous experiment, for a lot of people to spatially teleport in. A spatial teleportation is like in VR where you can kind of be in the same space, right? Mm-hmm. I think if somebody's doing stuff, you need to get a lot of eyes on and be like, hey, buddy, you sure you want to do that? Let's talk about this thing. So, I think a lot more transparency because I don't like those black boxes. I don't like those walled gardens. That stuff piques my paranoia. I want to trust in humanity and I want to trust what everybody's doing. And that's one reason I've chosen to make my platform completely transparent is so no one will have that paranoia about what we're doing. They can go under the hood and look at all the AIs. They can know exactly if somebody finds there's some racial bias in the AI. It's like, good job, buddy. Way to find it. Let's fix that now. So I think the way you kind of avert disaster is by making everything transparent.
Mm-hmm. It seems there seems to be a lot of people are like, I don't want these things telling us what to do. And I'm like, man, do you ever stop and spend your day concerning yourself over how you treat flies? Or, like, AI is just going to take off so quickly that it won't even recognize us.
I hope it's going to be, I don't think it's going to tell you what to do. So I like the term, everybody likes artificial intelligence. I always like to think of AI as assistive intelligence.
Right.
And I look at AI as being amazing collaborators. And that's one of the reasons that kind of, with my friends, and they've honestly educated me more about some of these things. But with digital twinning, it's such a great kind of way to, I think, keep yourself centered. Because if you're actively having agency over your own AI and your own neural network, and that AI can be like, hey, buddy, remember when you said you wanted to exercise more? Why don't we do that?
Boom.
It's like, oh yeah, I did tell you that a few weeks ago. Okay, let's do that. And it's purely because I think giving somebody agency over who they want to be in the future, and telling that AI, I would really like to learn this, I would really like to be this type of person, and letting that AI kind of offer choices and suggestions to you about things that it interprets, and maybe other mentors, other people that you trust can also advise you on. That to me is a good reality where you can start to trust that AI, where it's your AI. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, 100%. And that's kind of tying back to we want to automate our best decision making.
That's it. And I think if you can, we're wetware and we're fallible, right? Like me, myself, I forget shit all the time, right? Yeah. And so being able to kind of have a digital version of myself that doesn't forget, that has this memory that far exceeds mine, that can remind me of these things that I've said, and I can go through its files and look and be like, oh yeah, I did say that to you. Cool. I would greatly appreciate that, to have it to collaborate with and to task it with stuff like, hey buddy, can you go order some food for me that I needed? It's like, I got you, man. The usual. Yeah, dude, thanks. Just for me, I'm very like, if you want to summarize my life philosophy, I look for simple things in life, and I love Bill and Ted. I just like easy things like be excellent to each other and party on, dude. So I'm very much hoping that it'll be a cool future where AI is just kind of fun to hang out with and helps you be the best you.
And just like we're seeing kind of with the current AI, with like, it knows what you want more than you do, almost, even now.
Right.
It's
not, yeah. And you're not even training it directly, right? Like, that's scary shit. I don't like that. I just don't like that. Now one of the things that you and I know that, right? Mm-hmm. But I would say 99.9% of the world doesn't have a consciousness over that, right? They just, maybe more and more are getting that. But like for me, I intentionally like let's talk about YouTube, right? One of my friends actually taught me this. It was like, oh, you're totally right. He was like, I consciously click on YouTube videos that I want to see more of, just so I can train that algorithm to feed me those things. And so just to know that, have that consciousness of it's watching you, and you have to be watching it watching you. It's like this, it's this weird, awareness that most people don't have at this point. And they're just like, I'd like to see more cat videos. And that 1 or 2 moments of, just let me look at these silly things. And now all you ever get is a feed of cat videos, and we're going down the idiocracy route,
Yeah. There's a great bit that a comedian does where he talks about, he went and made this horrible mistake of going on iTunes and playing one Christmas song during Christmas time.
I haven't heard that.
Yeah, it's fantastic. He's just berated with Christmas songs.
Yeah, that's it. That's this reality we have. And here's the thing. You don't have any power to edit that thing. You have no power over that. And that sucks, right?
Right.
So, yeah, I'm a really big believer in, your data should be your data. And, we're actively going to be including, we hope we are, the solid framework from Tim Berners-Lee, and one of my best friends, Liam, is working on it too. It's all about trying to make your data and keeping it yours. And we would put that stuff directly on there so that you would have agency over being able to, go in there and edit that code. Be like, no more Christmas videos, dude, please.
So I campaigned for Andrew Yang, and how.
Oh, you did?
Yeah,
that's so cool. He's like actually one of the few politicians that actually resonates with him. Like, oh, I like you.
Yeah, what's not to like about him? He's just such a genuine. Yeah. I signed up for the Data Dividend Project, where they're trying to cut checks for people for their data, etc. And Jaron Lanier, savvy with him. It's huge, the situation with that right now.
It's just like I look out over at politics and it just looks like some WWE type thing where it's just like, I don't identify with anybody. And then when he came out, it was like, oh, wow, somebody that's actually really practically thinking about long-term solutions in new ways, how to rethink those systems. And it was just so funny just to watch him be utterly kind of dismissed. And even with people that I felt, which I kind of trusted their political views, they just dismissed him right away. I'm like, really? Oh, man, I thought I liked you.
Yeah.
But it's funny to see, though, that now, fast forward a couple of years later, UBI and all these things are now just happening. And he had, he was just so forward thinking. Yeah, I'm excited, and I hope he wins in New York.
Oh, he's crushing it. Full confidence he will. I love that you know who he is. Of course you would, because he's just like you. We're just a great thinker. And that's kind of where I've gotten this concept that I'm working on, is that like Andrew Yang did the Make America Think Harder. And I'm just like, yo, let's just take that global. We're not committed to being right about anything. We're just trying to be happy here. And how do we get people to commit themselves to just what we know to be good for ourselves, and making that more.
I love what you just said there. I love what you said there is just, we're just looking for good ideas. We don't actually know the best ways, but let's try out different stuff and test it. Right.
Right.
It's definitely like the systems that we have don't seem to be working that well.
Bingo.
Homelessness is rampant, inequality and every system you look is not functioning as optimal as it should. And, starting to look at how these tech companies and how these other, things are running pretty efficiently and trying to kind of introduce that into these things. Yeah, I really think that somebody like Andrew will come in with that fresh perspective and hopefully bring that. So yeah, I sincerely am looking for people with fresh ideas and people that come in with humility. I mean, I know I come in all the time with that. It's like, I don't know if this is going to work, but let's test it out.
Totally.
And that's very much a technology, agile development thing of going, okay, let's try something. Oops, it's not working. Let's adjust. Okay, cool. Oh, we learned a little bit from that. And I just don't see a lot of these larger institutions being that agile anymore. It's like trying to steer a cruise ship, it's a little too heavy.
Are you familiar with Daniel Schmachtenberger? Have you heard that name?
Yeah. He says what I'm thinking, but way more succinctly and more intelligent.
Yeah. It's like he has access to a freaking Wikipedia in his mind.
But yeah, sense making was a new keyword for me this last year. And I definitely learned a lot about it. Mm-hmm. And kind of got into some groups that were trying to figure out how to make sense-making tools. And I myself am kind of putting some of that stuff in super reality. And yeah, realizing, coming back to what I was talking about with digital twinning and these organizations, right? There's actually huge implications in sense-making if it becomes a widely adopted platform. And my reasoning for that is usually sense-making breaks down when a third party comes into it, meaning a lot of now not all the breakdown, but some of the breakdown comes in when you have somebody say something like as an eyewitness to a car accident or something, right? And just saying, oh, there was a fender bender, right? Oh yeah, this guy got in a little fender bender, they're okay. But then you take a clickbait kind of news story that takes that and wildly blows it out of proportion, right? And turns it into something that it's not. And then people will read that and be like, oh man, did you hear about the giant car wreck? And oh my God, we need more regulations on this and that. And it's this butterfly effect of stuff that happens, right? One of the things that I hope, if you do have a digital twin of somebody and you are training it at all times, I can see in a future that I would love is I would know that there's a car wreck and just go directly to the witness's digital twin, be like, hey, what happened, buddy? Be like, oh, it was a fender bender. Cool, thanks. And so you essentially don't have to have third parties for news anymore. You can go directly to the person that is saying the thing and witnessing it, and or giving their opinion of it or whatever. So you can go directly to them at the end of the day. And I do think that will improve reality. Does that make sense?
Yes. It's so remarkable how well you understand the implications of this. It's just so cool.
I'm winging it, buddy.
No, it
just
doesn't.
letting you know, I think about a lot of things. So I've had a unique career. So I created Turbo Squid. This is back in 1999. It essentially was that time frame was like eBay was just happening, Napster was just happening. But at that same time period, I came up with Turbo Squid, and it was essentially the world's first digital asset marketplace where you could go and sell a digital asset and then somebody could come and buy that asset. And now, looking back at that, I didn't even know at the time how significant that was. But looking back at it now, it was like, holy crap, that was actually, now when we look at the world, there's so many digital assets being sold now with NFTs and all those things. So yeah, I just stumbled into that, right? It was just kind of felt right to me at the time. I didn't even know what I was doing. It was just like, I wanted that tool. I basically wanted a world where I could go log into a website, and because I was a 3D artist myself, and could just search for like, oh man, I want a building. Cool, I have it. Let me put that in my scene. And I wanted that tool to make 3D worlds with. And but I will say this: it was more instinctual. And now I'm 44, right? I was in my early 20s when I came up with it, and now I'm 44, and I know that I run on a lot of instinct, and I try to be very conscious about kind of what I'm doing more. But at the end of the day, I know I'm just winging it, and I'm still just trying to create tools for a world that I really don't understand, that I would like to make more sense of, that would help me navigate it. But again, I'm just winging it. And that's one reason we're making Super Reality open source, is so I can get people that are much smarter than me coming in and being like, hey buddy, you're fucking up here. It's like, oh, cool, dude. Yeah. Thanks. Didn't know.
Yeah. It's not a commitment to being right. It's a commitment to being happy, right?
Yeah. Commitment to just trying to find a righter version of the way we're doing stuff, right? It's just and for me, it is about making a happier world, productive. I still want productive. I still want people learning. And I mean, my definition of happy is everybody being valued for what they care about, and if they want to grow, really giving them all the tools to grow. So like right now, my day job is I'm CEO for GameGen. And we specifically teach adults with autism how to code and design video games. And, these would be people that would be, let me start with the story. So I had a student who was really, really talented and was on the autistic spectrum. And the mom was going to take him out of the class because she wanted to put him into essentially a day program that was going to teach him how to box fold and put stuff in packages. And this kid was the best mathematician and best game developer that I'd met in the last 3 years, right? Oh my God. I realized that mom didn't see the same person I saw, of how brilliant this kid was and how amazing he was. You only know what you know. And so at GameGen, we really try to look for those things that just those students value and love, and whether it's just the absurdity of being a brony and loving My Little Pony to, loving J-pop to, whatever it is that kind of is the window into their world.
Yeah.
And teaching them how to go and take it to another next step of turning them into something productive, like making games around that subject, learning to code, creating artwork, becoming a YouTuber, and just learning more communication and networking. It's always about kind of valuing that person and taking them farther. So yeah, my definition of happiness is kind of broad that way, in the sense to where, happiness is kind of being valued and then getting everything you need to grow as a human.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's very in line with, I was talking with a friend who's a Montessori teacher the other day, and that seems to resonate a lot, where you kind of find what the person's affinity is, whatever their instinct leads them to, and then just build the platform from there, it sounds like, and generate all the sort of productive material to revolve around that. Does that sound right?
You're making me feel bad, man. We went to a Montessori school for my first daughter for like a week, and it was a little bit too much drive time for me. So we didn't do it. Now I'm thinking I should have stuck with that Montessori. It sounds like it would have been a good idea.
Yeah, hearing about it makes me sad too. Like we had talked about earlier, that public school has just kind of drove me into the ground, essentially. And in a way, I'm turning the corner, where I'm just like, this is so cool. It just makes you so happy to hear that nobody else has to experience that anymore, and that's amazing.
Yeah, you shared that with me about your schooling, and your trajectory for the shortcomings you found in schooling is definitely mine as well. And I think there's a lot of people that get, let down by the schooling system. It really does. It can't teach the highest denominator. The smartest students in the class, suffer because the teacher, basically has to teach to the 30 people all blanketly in the class. And if you have those distractions in the class with the lower level students, man, she's having to deal with them. And it just consequently no one gets served. And then when you throw COVID on top of it, of them having to manage everybody wearing the masks and keeping 6 feet apart, it's a nightmare.
Right.
So I'm very hopeful that with AI, right, it can know that person and to be able to understand what they know and to be able to recommend with other mentors, humans as well, not just AIs. I'm a big proponent of a collaboration there, but know where they're at. Like if it's 2 + 2 = 4, it's like, all right, buddy, it's time for 3 + 3 = 6. Mm-hmm. And to give them that next scaffolded step and make learning very individualized for people. I think that's really the key.
Were you aware of Deep Blue and Gary Kasparov?
Of course.
I've listened to a couple of interviews where he talks about that it's not about the raw computing power of these systems. It's about human in conjunction with the computing. There's something about the human that's still just really, we just haven't turned the corner, it seems like.
My hope is we're right there. And we've never been, let's put it this way, we've never been closer.
Yeah, so true.
How close we are, I don't know, but we've never been this close.
It's so true. Well, to our knowledge, right? Maybe we've spent many millennia being this close over and over again.
Oh, man. I can take that in so many ways. There's some interesting theories and simulation hypothesis like that. But hey, that's this weird thing. We don't know. We only know what we know.
Well, what a special moment, man. I'm
very grateful to you. Thank you so much, Gavin, for reaching out. And it's been fun hanging out with you in Clubhouse. And I wish you the best of luck with your platform, man. You're a great interviewer. And it was just fun to do this.
All back to you, Nick. You are the man. I love hearing your voice in rooms because you are always full of just the next good idea. And that's exactly, we just want more and more of those voices, and the compassion that you bring to it is just, it's astonishing. And so thank you.
Thanks, man. I'm a weird dude. I like Bill and Ted.
Well, weird is the new normal. I'd rather be weird than normal.
I like that.
Right.
I like that. Let's unite all the freaks together and nerds. It's time. Our time has come.
That's right. We're in it.
All right, Gavin. Well, have a great night, okay? And maybe I'll see you later on Clubhouse.
Of course. Yeah. You too. Take care.